construction on that. So the railroad, or actually the next 5 years, you can see the railroad. We're going to be required to relocate facilities in order to do that railroad, and also to do the taxiway V, and the T3 into concourse location. So the railroad trench project's $450 million, and that was back 2 years ago, and it was rough order of magnitude. It didn't include a lot of utility costs, so I'm not confident in that number right at this point, but that's what we had in camp, so that's what I'm keeping. Obviously, that will be adjusted for the time escalation, and once we find out how many utilities have to be moved, need to be moved, then we can make a better budget estimate at that point. So the Union Pacific Railroad funding, we did get a $25 million grant to basically grade separate 24th Street and the railroad. That will happen regardless if the other trench project happens. We will be making that grade separation there. We got the Federal Railroad Association grant. The funding for the trench would be through aviation funds, and the taxiways that would go over the trench would be FAA grants, we're hoping. Again, the negotiations for the railroad are ongoing, and the delivery method will be CM at risk with a pricing component. So this is the agreed upon, and I don't know if you can see, it's pretty small, the agreed upon plan and profile. It basically goes from 24th Street to 40th Street, excuse me, 24th to 40th Street. Very slight grade, and the full depth isn't that long. It really just is enough to just get a taxiway over it in the middle there. And just an example of the trench section and the siding track, which will be required. So the next camp project that has been put on hold is the Crossfield Taxiway. You'll see that it says U or V there. It's sorry about that. It's unclear whether we're going to do U or V. We've basically planned for both. U is a little cheaper because it takes out less. It doesn't require the removal of the facilities group from their current location. If we do V, we have to relocate them up north, so that's a little bit more money. Anyway, the budget, again, $330, that was done 2.5 years ago, so that would need to be adjusted. So we're looking at funding this with FAA grants and aviation funds. We did complete a project definition phase, basically a planning and a program for that to make sure it would work. We needed to understand, if it was constructible and allowed traffic from the west side to continue to come in, and how we would build that so that we could get a good estimate for the cost of that. The bridges at the SkyTrain underpass are already complete as part of the SkyTrain project, so it wouldn't impact the train operation. Project delivery would be CM at risk, phase construction, again, keeping Sky Harbor Boulevard open. There are enabling projects, facility relocation if we do V, and West Cargo modifications for either of those two. You can see the plan and scope of taxiway V, and what we would need to do the roadways and how we'd be phasing this. Utility relocations aren't shown. We would need to do a utility investigation to understand where all those are. We haven't done that yet. The design does work. We verified with the MAG update for how they're looking at their interchange there at Buckeye, and how I think this is called the Swerve project or the Weave project there on I-10. Just wanted to verify that it works. And if we do V, we would have to relocate facilities and services up north of the railroad. And this is just a test fit of where it would go on the west side of the dog track over there in the parking area. And then also the west air cargo modifications. We would need to remove 7 bays, cargo C, to clear the object-free area. Just the schedule, you can see we were planning on procurement starting in 2020, first quarter. It's about a 9-month process. That didn't start, so you can move everything at this point. Who knows when, maybe second quarter, third quarter, we'll see. These projects that are put on hold, especially the camp ones, are really contingent on passenger numbers and revenues. And at this point, I think we're running about 40 to 50% of what we did the previous year. So that's not good for us. Of course, it doesn't help that Arizona's the #1 COVID state at this point. So Terminal 3 into concourse, this is probably out even further than those others. I'm not sure what the need is. Before COVID, we had a need. We were gate constrained. We were actually buying buses to do hard stands. That's all pretty much gone away with COVID. So, you know, this project is basically to do a second concourse north of Terminal 3, in between Terminal 3 and Terminal 4. The scope of the project, you know, shown in camp is that it would connect to both Terminal 4 and Terminal 3. That's up for debate. We did start and put on hold the planning process. We got to the first meeting in March and put that on hold. So really haven't done much since the camp effort was completed. But we're looking into CM risk again. At the time, we were starting the terminal planning phase. So ongoing CIP updates. This is the part that I cut down because there were a lot of slides and I couldn't email it to myself from the city system. So I had to cut it down. But basically, we have four major ongoing projects. Terminal 3 modernization is pretty much complete. I think there's some punch list items on the south apron that Hunt Austin is doing, but I didn't include that in here. The 4 major projects we have going right now are SkyTrain Stage 2, and the status of that is the fixed facilities, which is the Hensel Phelps construction part of that project is substantially complete. We're working on punch list in the stations and also working on getting power to the switch yard that we built, APS power up Buckeye. So if you go up Buckeye, that's what we've been doing for the last 2 months or so, messing that roadway up. So really it's in Bombardier's hands now, working on the train control and all the equipment that they need to run the train, also manufacturing the trains back in Pittsburgh. And then going to start testing here in the summer, testing the train. We are having nightly shutdowns of the SkyTrain in order to do that work, and it will be disrupted at night quite a bit for the next year and a half. FYI. And then we have Terminal 4 S1 concourse in construction, going well. On schedule, everything's the great project McCarthy and Smith Group Corrigan are working on. It's going really well. We're excited about that. Southwest is happy with the design and happy with the status of the construction, so we're good there. Terminal 2 demolition. Basically, we've taken down the concourse. We're working on the processor, working to remove the mural and get it over to the RCC. I think that's going to happen in February. They're just getting ready to demo the backside of that mural and stabilize it so that they can move it in 3 pieces. And also the apron work that is going on down there has started. And it's, you know, it's about 1/3 complete, I believe. Terminal 4, North Apron rehabilitation, the project that never ends. So I think it's been ongoing for about 4 years. We're in the last phase of it, and we'll finally be done on the north side and done with American Airlines. I think it was supposed to be done in 2 years, but that schedule was based on getting 3 gates at a time. And obviously we didn't get that. We got 1 gate at a time and had to reschedule the whole thing. But it all went well and we worked it out, and the airport operations continued. So that's good. So just a little kind of slide about what happened with COVID to my division. So as part, prior to 2020 and the pandemic, we had about 70 active projects with a value of 2.7 billion. So in March of last year, in an effort to reduce expenditures because our passengers dropped off and our revenues dropped off, aviation deferred 37 non-essential projects, and it was about $800 million worth of projects. Currently, we have 25 active projects with a value of about 1.8 or 9 billion. We did complete 8 projects. Of course, that was back in November. We have completed a few since then. I would say we probably have completed 11 at this point. So that's where we stand, and any questions I can take now. I do have to get off this call. I have another call that I need to make. So I would like to entertain questions now if that's possible.
I'm not seeing anything in the chat at this time, but if you do have a question for Kyle, please go ahead and speak up. Thank you, Rosa. Kyle, would you be willing to share the presentation with us?
Send it to you?
Yes, just so we can share it with the attendees today.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Great question.
If you email me, I'll email it to you. I think it's sized that at least it'll go through the city system.
Oh, absolutely. That's no problem at all.
Okay. All right, guys. Thank you.
Kyle, before you go, this is Eric. Thank you for attending today and making time. We know you're busy, and just take not having any questions that you did such a fantastic job that all the information was covered. So well done. If you want to share the presentation with me as well, I can get it to ACEC as well. So thanks, Kyle.
Thanks, Eric. We'll see you guys.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Kyle.
Kyle.
Really appreciate it.
No worries.
All right, so we can go now to, do we want to do Deer Valley first and go to Ed Farron? So Ed is the Deer Valley Airport Manager. Let's, Ed, if you don't mind, I think if you can introduce yourself, give us a little bit of background, things of that nature, and then go into your presentation.
Sure, I would be happy to. Good morning, everybody. My name is Ed Farron. I'm the airport manager at Phoenix Deer Valley Airport. And I guess just a very brief background. I've been with the city of Phoenix. I think I am in my 19th year. I've worked in various roles down at Sky Harbor and have been proudly working at Deer Valley for, well, I guess I'm in my 8th year here at Deer Valley as the airport manager. So with that, let me see if I can do a screen share. I do have a PowerPoint presentation that I would like to share with everybody.
And just to give you guys a brief, so Kyle was not sure if he was going to be able to make it this morning. So both Ed and Brad stepped in yesterday to put together presentations and to help with this, out. So Ed and Brad and Kyle, really grateful for you guys stepping up with basically last minute. So thank you so much. So we'll turn it back over to you, Ed.
Yep, thank you for that. And again, it's our pleasure to do this. So is everybody now seeing my screen that shows the Deer Valley terminal in front of it?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, terrific. So let's just jump right in. And I put this together kind of assuming that folks might not be extremely familiar with Deer Valley. So forgive me if this is not news to anybody, but just in case, I thought I would kind of start from square one. So for those unaware, Phoenix Deer Valley Airport is located in the far North Valley, approximately 26 miles or so north of Sky Harbor Airport. It's located just north of Loop 101 and just east of I-17. And it's been around for quite some time. It's actually was founded in 1959. And one of the primary financiers was this guy here. Does anybody happen to know who this is? Maybe Lance? No? So this guy, evidently he was really famous back in the 50s, 60s, and maybe even into the 70s. His name is Art Linkletter. He had a TV show on back in the day called Kids Say the Darndest Things, and evidently he was incredibly popular back in the day. He was a pilot. I don't know what necessarily his interest was in Phoenix Deer Valley Airport, but it was opened in 1959, and he was the guy writing the checks for the land and the original infrastructure and so forth. And then, of course, the city of Phoenix, this was interesting. So this is kind of a side note, but it's really, I find it fascinating. There was actually a number of crash tests that were performed right here at Deer Valley Airport back in the 1960s. And this is an actual photograph of one of those planes crashing. I think this was a DC-7 maybe. And these were intentionally crashed, not from the air into the ground, but rather it was, these airplanes were just run across the ground on one of the taxiways back in the day, and they were crashed into a mountain or a large hill for the purpose of examining how fuel was dispersed from the wing fuel tanks in the event of crash. We hardly ever get to do this anymore. And then, of course, the city of Phoenix purchased the airport in 1971. It is now a designated reliever airport to Sky Harbor. And it sure has evolved a lot over the years. And believe it or not, Deer Valley Airport is the busiest general aviation airport in the country by a long shot. In 2019, that was our busiest year ever, with more than 455,000 takeoffs and landings. So it's just an incredibly busy place. And so some Deer Valley facts for you. You know, it's actually a pretty big little airport, 914 acres in total. 2 runways, as you can see, our south runway is our big one. It's approximately 8,200 feet long by 100 feet wide. We've got a shorter runway here situated on the north side. That's 4,500 feet in length, 75 feet wide. We've got an FAA control tower located right here. Hopefully everybody can see my cursor. And these rectangular buildings, the majority of them are T hangars. Some of them are covered tie downs. It's impossible to determine which is which from this aerial view, but in total, we've got 779 T hangars located throughout the airport, 100% occupancy of the hangars with really long wait lists as well. Approximately 1,100 based aircraft live here at Deer Valley Airport. That number has been increasing steadily over the past several years, so that's a good sign. And Deer Valley features Class D airspace, so you got to have two-way radio communication and transponder to enter the airspace. In other words, you got to be talking and squawking to fly in and out of here. Some of our major tenants include Cutter Aviation, which is our fixed base operator. And again, for those who might not know what a fixed base operator or FBO is, it's essentially a company whose purpose is to provide services for the aircraft that fly in and out of here, everything from the smaller single engine aircraft all the way up to the business jets. So Cutter Aviation can provide fuel, hangar space or tie down space, aircraft maintenance. They can also make arrangements for the VIPs on jet aircraft and the flight crews as far as ground transportation, hotel arrangements, and so forth. We've also got 2 incredibly busy flight schools based here at Deer Valley. Aero Guard, and West Wind. And it is because of those two flight schools that we are, in fact, the busiest general aviation airport in the country. And I mentioned earlier that approximately, I think in 2019, we had 455,000 operations or so, or takeoffs and landings, and roughly 80% of those are attributed to the flight schools. You may also be aware that the Phoenix Police Department Air Support Unit is based here at Deer Valley. So all of those helicopters that you see flying over your neighbor's house, you know, all of those flights begin and end right here at Deer Valley. They hangar their aircraft here, and they perform all their maintenance here as well. Another tenant here on the field is called C-Brand Fuel. They provide self-serve fuel, 100 low lead or avgas only. They don't serve or they don't offer Jet A. Arizona Game and Fish is based here, right here at Deer Valley. They base all of their aircraft here and perform all their maintenance as well. And then lastly, I just would mention that the Civil Air Patrol Composite Squadron 302, which is the largest Civil Air Patrol squadron in the state of Arizona, is based here. And of course, their mission is they're actually an auxiliary of the United States Air Force, and they provide search and rescue, well, search efforts for missing aircraft or downed aircraft. I also wanted to talk about just a couple of our recent projects here at the airport. Excuse me. And so again, hopefully you can see my screen as well as my cursor. Completed just over a year ago were run-up areas, which I'm circling here with my cursor at either end of the taxiway. And so while these are not used for or used by turbine aircraft, these are used by piston engine aircraft to perform checks on their ignition system of the engine prior to departure. So we've got 6 run-up bays located here. This is a shot of the west end. You can see this is the threshold of runway 7 right. We've got the mirror image of that down at the other end. I did not provide a photo of that, so you might have to use your imagination. But I also want to just point out, you can see right here where I'm circling with my cursor, you can kind of see that we've stubbed out, when we built these run-up areas, we stubbed out part of the taxiway right here. So keep that in mind. We're going to talk about that here momentarily. And this is another project that we just completed about 2 months ago. And I apologize, this picture is horrible, but it's the only one that I've got so far. So we just spent a year constructing a brand new taxiway here at the airport. And this is called Taxiway Delta. So we now have 4 taxiways: Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, and Delta. And so for reference, over here where my cursor is, over on the left-hand side, is the run-up areas that I just referred to in the previous slide. And I'd mentioned that we stubbed out a taxiway, which is right here. So that provided a connection point for Taxiway Delta. So this brand new sort of darker colored asphalt right here is the brand new Taxiway Delta. And then you can see that we actually had to terminate Taxiway Delta at its east end right here. We could not go full length because of this building located right here. Actually, the helipads are primarily the source of our problem. They actually penetrate an imaginary area called the TOFA, or Taxiway Object Free Area. So we had to terminate Taxiway Delta right here until such time as we can relocate this building, which we are in the process of doing. So this was a massive, massive undertaking for us. This Taxiway Delta project, as I mentioned, it actually took about a year of construction. I believe the price tag was roughly $15 million, which was huge for Deer Valley. You know, that would probably be a fairly small project down at Sky Harbor, but it's massive for Deer Valley. And really one of the primary drivers behind this project, and again, I apologize for this photo, it's not the best, but really the reason that we added this taxiway related to, well, there was a number of reasons, but one of the, as I mentioned, one of the primary drivers was the hold bars located south of runway 7 right, 25 left were not to standard. They were not at the standard location. You can see that where they used to be, these little black lines represent the locations of the previous hold bars. which was 150 feet south of runway center line, which was the standard years ago when all of this was constructed. But the FAA design standard evolved over time, and the standard went from 150 feet to 250 feet, and we didn't feel that we could safely do that without making some major modifications to the airport geometry. So you can see the new location of the hold bars are way down here. So now they're 250 feet south of runway center line. However, imagine, if you will, an aircraft lands, pulls off the runway, goes past the hold bars, which are now right here. They got to go past the hold bars, stop and call ground control. But by the time they do that, they are essentially out in the middle of, this is taxiway Charlie. So they are essentially into taxiway Charlie proper. And so we didn't feel that we could relocate these hold bars to their correct location without the addition of this new taxiway. So now we have got dedicated paths of travel. So outbound traffic is always on is always on Delta. Inbound traffic is on Charlie. So in the scenario that I just gave, this aircraft could, in fact, land, pull across the hold bar, stop and call ground without fear of running into somebody or somebody running into him or her on taxiway Charlie, because there would never be an occasion where somebody would be traveling east and west on Charlie at that point. This outbound traffic is going to be on Delta. I hope that all makes sense. Okay, so that's recent projects. Let's see what we've got for coming up projects. We've got actually a huge one coming up. So Cutter Aviation, which I mentioned earlier, is the fixed base operator here, intends to construct sort of this type of a building. And they are hoping to break ground this summer. So this will be located on their existing leasehold. It's approximately 60,000 square feet of hangar space. It's also got some accompanying office space, and this is going to be a really, I think, popular new facility for them. Their hangars here at Deer Valley right now are bursting at the seams. They're really desperate to get some new hangar space so they can attract more customers and accommodate their existing customers. So this will be a big deal for them. Again, they're hoping to break ground sometime this summer. I expect construction to probably take approximately 9 months or so. So hopefully by maybe next spring, this thing will be open for business. Let's see, some other upcoming projects. So we are working with a development firm right now out of New York City, who's expressed a tremendous amount of interest in building some new corporate hangars in the southeast quadrant of the airport. We've got 40 acres of land that's available for development down there. They have snatched up, I think, about 9 of those acres. They're expecting to build somewhere in the vicinity of 100,000 square feet of corporate hangar space. We're getting really close to signing a lease with them. Hopefully in the next month or so, that'll be done, and they can start building a project schedule. But I would, I guess, optimistically, I would hope that they could break ground maybe late fall of this year. Also coming up, maybe not quite as exciting as all that, is our PAPI upgrade. PAPI stands for Precision Approach Path Indicator. So we've got a project in the works to upgrade our current system to one that provides a higher degree of accuracy. And for those who might not be pilots in the room, PAPI system basically just provides visual guidance for pilots as they approach. Basically, it's an approach slope, if you will, that provides guidance for pilots to get down to the runway. I mentioned earlier, the police air support unit building is kind of in my way. I can't complete taxiway Delta full length without relocating that building. So we are working with DWL Architects right now. We're in design to get a new building designed and built, and hopefully breaking ground sometime this summer. Construction will probably be 18 months for this one. And then hopefully, we'll have a new building up in late 2022, I suppose. Another critically important project that's coming up, not next year, but I think we're 3 years out from a runway reconstruction / strengthening for runway 7 right, 25 left. That's our long runway. Right now it's fairly weight limited. We can only handle 93,000 pounds, dual wheel configuration. We're seeing more and more heavier jets, heavy for us, meaning 100,000 pounds or maybe just a little bit more than that. So we need to reconstruct and strengthen that runway. And then additionally, another exciting project for us is going to be a runway extension project up on the north side, 7 left, 25 right. On the east end, we do have a runway extension plans of 800 feet. That's the longest we could extend it without knocking down some hills or small mountains on the east side of the airport. So that'll be coming up in the next several years anyways. And I also wanted to talk about development opportunities. So, you know, Deer Valley Airport is uniquely situated. As I mentioned at the start of the discussion, we've got 914 acres in total. But we're very fortunate because we've got approximately 200 acres just ready for development. So I mentioned earlier, I just want to kind of reference a couple of things. So for those who have been to the airport, so right here where my cursor is, center of the page, kind of low, is the terminal. So that's kind of your reference point. Cutter Aviation is located right here where my cursor is. Their new building is planned for this area right here. And yes, you can see a lot of aircraft parked on their ramp. So Cutter leases that space to Westwind, which is one of the 2 busy flight schools here. So all of those aircraft are going to be relocated to these 2 cover tie down structures right here. That's going to free up all of that space so they can build their corporate hangar here. So they'll have enough room there to build the hangar and then also accompanying ramp space. I also mentioned the outfit that we're working with out of New York City to build some corporate hangars in the southeast quadrant of the airport. And so that is down in this neck of the woods. So, and you can actually see we've got some infrastructure in here already. We've got a taxi lane. We've got a vehicle road with a cul-de-sac on the end of it and a perimeter road. We've got utilities in the vicinity, not necessarily full to each individual parcel, but we've got utilities out here. But the company that's going to build the corporate hangars did not gobble up all of this land. Again, 40 acres in total down here. I think we've got them, we're working with them to gobble up 9 of those acres. So we still have some property available here in the southeast quadrant of the airport. Additionally, we've got 70 acres up in this area in the northeast part of the airport. We've got 80 acres over here on the northwest side. And then up here, we call this our top hat. We've got about 15 acres ready for development here. So, you know, plenty of space for more corporate hangars or, you know, maintenance facilities, light MRO. We can handle light MRO. We can't handle, Brad's going to talk to you in a moment about some of the MRO that they do out at Goodyear. We couldn't handle anything like that, but we could do the light MRO. So smaller single engine, twin engine, piston engine aircraft, or even, you know, the smaller business jets. And I also, I guess just in closing, a couple of smaller things that we have been working on. Again, for those of you who have been to Deer Valley Airport, might be familiar with the restaurant that had been here for probably 25 years or so. The only reason I mention this is because surprisingly, this is probably one of the #1 phone calls that I receive nowadays. The status of the restaurant. It closed down last March, right at the front end of this pandemic. We are working to get it reopened, but it's a bad time to try to open up a restaurant right now. Hopefully we're at the, maybe we've got light at the end of the tunnel as far as this pandemic is concerned. But we're having some difficulty attracting a new operator for the restaurant. We have endeavored to find a new operator. We were not successful the first time around. So we're kind of regrouping right now. We hope to get that opened up, I think realistically, probably this fall at the absolute earliest, if we can find an operator for it, but it's just the timing is horrible. Another thing I wanted to mention is the Scottsdale Airport temporary closure. As for those who don't know, SDL stands for Scottsdale Airport. They've got a massive runway, some sort of a runway reconstruction project beginning July 6th. And I think they are anticipating approximately a 45-day full round-the-clock closure of that airport. They're not going to have any operations whatsoever other than helicopter ops. And so we are fully expecting, due to our proximity to Scottsdale Airport, I think they're only 12 miles away, we are expecting a tremendous amount of spillover from their based aircraft coming over to Deer Valley. And it won't be just Deer Valley, it'll be other airports as well, Falcon, Chandler as well, and Sky Harbor. And so we are kind of bracing ourselves. We still don't know what the exact effects of that closure will be on Deer Valley airports. I can tell you that our FBO, Qatar Aviation, has about 25 reservations already, primarily from jet aircraft operators. But we're also expecting to be contacted by a lot of other smaller single and twin engine aircraft as well. We haven't yet, but we're certainly bracing for that. And I think that is it for Phoenix Deer Valley Airport. And I guess I would throw it out there for any questions if there are any.
I don't see any questions and don't hear any right now. Any questions for Ed? All right, well, if you think of some, I think, Ed, you'll be able to stick around for the Brad's presentation and afterwards.
I wouldn't miss Brad's presentation.
I can't wait. So, all right, so with that, we'll turn it over to Brad. Brad is the Goodyear Airport manager, and I will let him kind of go through a little background about himself and then kick off his presentation.
Hi, thanks. Can you see the presentation?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So Chuck mentioned, my name's Brad Hagan. I'm the airport manager here at Phoenix Goodyear Airport. I've been with City of Phoenix for about 5 years now, and then I've been around at different airports. I've been an airport manager since I was 27 years old. So been doing it for a little while. So at Goodyear Airport, a few facts on the background. We opened right before World War II, November 1941. Just as Deer Valley, we were purchased by the City of Phoenix as a relief airport in 1968. We have about 800 acres of property, one runway, where Sky Harbor has 3 and Deer Valley have 2. We just have one runway. 240 based aircraft, about 120,000 aircraft operations, takeoff and landings, 147 T hangars, and we are designed, it's an Airport Design Group 4, so all the geometry, everything planned at the airport now is to a Boeing 767 aircraft. We're somewhat unique because we're owned by the City of Phoenix, but we're located inside the city limits of the City of Goodyear. So we work hard to have good relationships with Goodyear. As you can imagine, we get our police and fire response. Any issues like land use zoning, we have to work with Goodyear. So they're a great partner, and we work together really well. Out at Goodyear, we have 3 key business segments: maintenance, repair, and overhaul. We refer to as MRO. We have some flight training and corporate aircraft. So the first business partner, we have a company called AirSail. That's one of our tenants. They're our biggest tenant by leasehold and revenue. On the top left, you can see a picture. We have 2 very large hangars, well over 100,000 square foot each, that we lease to AirSail. And they do MRO, everything from airline maintenance to paint jobs to inspections to aircraft storage. They do a lot of that for big aircraft. On the top right, you can see.
One second, Brad. I'm not sure if my screen's locked up, but I see the cover slide is all I see. .
Okay, I'm flipping through, so Nothing else is coming on.
I see the PDF and the cover slide, and mine may be locked up. Hopefully, I don't know if anybody else is seeing the map and the other slides.
So does anyone else see a slide with 4 pictures on it, 4 aircraft?
No, it looks like it's just your title page.
Okay.
Maybe, I don't know if we can go through the pages on the PDF. Is that where you're at?
Yeah, so I'm on page 4 of 13. Can you click on that?
No, we don't have any ability to
Okay.
work through your presentation.
Hey, Ed, are you able to put that up and try it with yours?
Yeah, let me give that a try, Brad. Stand by.
Sorry about that. I'm not sure why it's not flipping.
It's no problem. It wouldn't be a Zoom meeting without some technical difficulties.
And I've got it.
Yeah, if you want to put yours, either one.
Yeah, I've got it here. So let me,
I sent it to him in advance because this often happens to me. So
Brad, I'm sharing my screen, which has your presentation on it. Are you seeing it? Or is the group seeing it?
yep, we're seeing your screen, Ed, now, and I see the first slide.
okay, Ed, can you go to second?
I'm having the same issue. Oh, here we go.
Okay, so those are what we just covered with some of the facts about Goodyear. Can you go forward a couple, Ed? One more, there you go. So here's the slide that I was referencing. So top left, those are a couple of large hangars that Goodyear released to that company air sale for our MRO business. Top right is a 777 that flew in. This was our first international flight we had last year, not with passengers, but crew only. It was a ferry flight. But Boeing wanted to bring in aircraft for air sale. So we do have limited Customs and Border Protection CBP that will come out to clear flights at Goodyear. Bottom left was United 737 MAX. United had stored 14 of them at Goodyear after their issues. They're in the process of flying all of them out now. Each MAX has to go through about a 2-week inspection, and then they fly it out for revenue service. And then on the bottom right, we get a lot of ad hoc aircraft, big aircraft come in for maintenance and other reasons. And you can see the Patriots plane there, a 767. Okay, Ed. Our second tenant we have at the airport is Lufthansa. They're a flight school. So we have a flight school as well, just like Deer Valley, only we have a fraction of the operations. They probably fly 90,000 operations a year, where I think Ed is probably 400,000. But though that's a type aircraft they have for their flight training, to train for Lufthansa Airlines. Okay, Ed. And a third business partner is our FBO Luxair Jet Centers. They handle all of our corporate traffic. Okay. So one of the advantages for Goodyear, if you look at the valley, right, there's a picture, right, 45 miles wide of the valley. There's 3 airports with a runway that have the load-bearing capacity to support up to a 747. Gateway in the east, Sky Harbor in central Phoenix, and then Goodyear out west. So we try to leverage that as much as we can for our business, because that's where a lot of our future is big aircraft. Okay. Some of the projects we just completed, master plan update, that went really well. We didn't have any contentious issues here with noise or anything else. One of the key things that came out of that was that Goodyear was designated as a design group 4. So that's where our all the geometry for Goodyear now will be built to a 767 standard. So that's really helpful for us. We rehabbed some of our pavement around some T hangars, and we also have one full-length parallel taxiway. We spent $7 million a couple of years ago repaving and strengthening that. Upcoming, we have a several projects. One is drainage improvements, and we'll look at a picture of all of these here in a minute. Some infield paving, parking, apron, and then some rehab of aprons. Go ahead, Ed. So our drainage project, this is coming up. We have 2 ADOT projects right now. And on the far left, you can see there's 2 areas on the airport where we have an open ditch. They've had these before the airport was here in 1941. So the water comes in from the north. It goes in that open ditch there in the yellow, phase 1. Then it goes underground underneath our runway. Then it comes back up down at the south end and it drains off airport. So this is already designed. We're going to advertise in February, open bids, March, I believe, award in May, and then NTP in June. So the middle picture shows, if you're familiar with the area, this would be standing on Yuma Road, looking south into the airport. And then the other picture is the south end, what we refer to as phase 2. Both of these will have a reinforced concrete pipe put in, and then it will we'll bury it and just have it graded flush and get rid of the ditches. So that's coming up this summer. Go ahead, Ed. Our infill paving, we hope to get a grant in July of this year to pave 3 different infield sections at the airport. Right now, it's just native soil, or some of them we have millings put in. But with exhaust and rotorcraft operations like helicopters as they fly in, it blows soil and debris around. So we're going to pave that to help us, not only with erosion, but it also helps with wildlife as well. It's about 91,000 square yards. So hopefully we can pave that here in the next year. Okay. Another project we have is a Boeing 767 ramp designed to park 2 767s. So we're pretty much out of apron, out of parking space here at the airport. So the orange there, that is designed. CNS did a great job for us. I think it's essentially 100%. I think we might still be waiting for a few comments, but it's primarily designed now, and we hope to construct. It's in the FY22 program for an FAA grant, but if monies come sooner, we'd certainly like to do that. So that ramp will open up that area there. There's about 75 acres. And then the blue, our corporate hangars, our FBO, are going to build this summer as well. So you can see how that kind of lines up, and we're leveraging that taxi lane. And then the other development there, it isn't imminent right now, but at times Amazon and others have talked to us about air cargo. So we think at some point in the midterm, there will be some of that as well. And we just show that there for scale. Okay, Ed. And then aside from that, we have in the next 5 years, a lot of apron rehabilitation. The orange and yellow is our concrete ramp. It was poured in, I think the 40s, World War II, but surprisingly, the panels are in pretty good shape. It's just really the joints that are deteriorating mostly. But there's also some apron there in the blue we want to do around our hangars. The orange and yellow are about 8 million each, and then I think it's about 5 or 6 million for the hangars there in the blue. So we hope to do a lot of apron rehab coming up if we can get the grants for it. Go ahead, Ed. And that's it. So thanks for including Goodyear along with Deer Valley and Phoenix. And sorry about the problem there's flipping slides. Thank you, Ed, for helping me.
One thing we love about the city of Phoenix, they are team players. So way to go, you guys.
Thank you. Any questions for Brad or Ed remaining on? I'm not seeing any. So if you have any, I think we've got Eric. Do you have any announcements to go through now?
Real quick, I know we're right on the time, and Brad and Ed, thanks for contributing today. It's good to get all three airports' perspectives when we do this with ACEC, so I appreciate that. I do have Brianna here. If she wanted to give an update, the acting city engineer. So Brianna, if you have any updates for upcoming projects.
Good morning, everyone. So we only have one professional services project coming out this week. It's for architectural services for the Fire Station 62 new build. And that's all I see that's upcoming for a while for professional services.
Thank you, Brianna. So just one last kind of plug here. Being that I'm the interim water services director, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that right now the city of Phoenix is proposing a water rate increase of up to 6.5% over the next 2 years. You will undoubtedly see some of our social media posts, and we have 4 upcoming virtual meetings regarding the water rate increase. We're also attending all the village planning meetings between now and March. So there'll be a lot of information available. I did provide some of that information to Justin. And if ACEC is so inclined to be supportive of this water rate increase, could advertise that. If you have any questions about that, feel free to reach out. But I want to make sure that this group, being that along with that water rate increase comes increased design and construction, I suspect that you guys would be interested in the success of that water rate increase. But again, I will leave that up to ACEC to decide how they want to move forward with that. But that's all I had, Chuck. Wanted to make sure that we talked about the upcoming projects and about the water rate increase.
Okay, great. Any questions for Eric or Brianna? Okay, well, thank you all for coming. And next month will be February 23rd. We will have the streets. So another can't miss presentation. I think Kenny may be giving that presentation. So we'll see you guys in February at the streets liaison.
Thanks, Chuck.
Thank you for joining us, everyone. Be safe out there, and we will see you next month.